Just want to make a quick video on the president will be going live in about 22 minutes. Let me see. 18 minutes? The Whitehouse is always late though. I know he's supposed to be talking today about the opening up of America again. So before he goes live and tells the whole world, I'll tell you. Phase 1, individuals. All vulnerable individuals should continue to shelter in place. Members of households with vulnerable residents should be aware that by returning to work or other environments where distancing is not practical, they could carry the virus back home. Precautions should be taken to isolate vulnerable residents. All individuals, when in public, parks, blah blah blah, etc., should maximize physical distance from other social settings of more than 10 people. Where appropriate distancing may not be practical, should be avoided unless precautionary measures are observed. Avoid socializing in groups of more than 10 people in circumstances that do not readily allow for appropriate physical distancing, receptions, trade shows, etc., etc. Minimizing non-essential travel, and adhere to CDC guidelines regarding isolation following travel. Phase 1, employers. Continue to encourage telework. If possible, return to work in phases. Minimize non-essential travel. Special accommodations for personnel who are members of vulnerable population. Phase 1, specific types of employers. Schools and organized youth activities, daycares, camp, etc., that are currently closed should remain closed. Again, that's phase 1. Schools will remain closed. Visit to senior living facilities and hospitals should be prohibited, so they will still be closed to visitors as they are right now. This is part of phase 1 for reopening. Large venues, sit-down dining, movie theaters, sporting venues, etc., can operate under strict physical distancing protocols. So that'll start reopening some businesses. That'll be dope. Elective surgeries can resume as clinically appropriate. An outpatient basis at facilities that adhere to CMS guidelines. Gyms can open if they adhere to strict physical distancing and sanitation protocols. Bars should remain closed. This is all part of phase 1. Phase 2. For states and regions with no evidence of a rebound and that satisfy the gating criteria a second time. Phase 2, individuals. All vulnerable individuals should continue to shelter in place. Members of households with vulnerable residents should be aware that by returning to work or other environments where distancing is not practical, they could carry the virus back home. Precautions should be taken to isolate from vulnerable residents. All individuals, when in public, parks, outdoor recreational, etc., should maximize physical distancing from other social settings of more than 50 people. Where appropriate distancing may be practical, should be avoided unless precautionary measures are observed. Non-essential travel can resume. That's for individuals. Phase 2, employers. Continue to encourage telework, close common areas where personnel are likely to congregate and interact. Non-essential travel can resume. Strongly consider special accommodations for personnel who are members of the vulnerable population. Phase 2, specific types of employers. Schools and organized youth activities, daycares, camps, etc., can reopen. Yay! Get the kids back to school. That'll be part of phase 2. Large venues, sit-down dinings, movie theaters, etc., can operate under moderate physical distancing protocols. Elective surgeries can resume as clinically appropriate on an outpatient, inpatient basis at facilities that adhere to the CMS guidelines. Gyms can remain open if they adhere to strict physical distancing. Bars may operate with diminished standing room capacity where applicable and appropriate. Phase 3. For states and regions with no evidence of a rebound and that satisfy the gating criteria a third time. Let's see. Phase 3 individuals. Vulnerable individuals can resume public interactions but should practice physical distancing, minimizing exposure to social settings where distancing may not be practical unless precautionary measures are observed. Low risk populations should consider minimizing time spent in crowded environments. Phase 3 employers. Resume unrestricted staffing of work sites. Basically, let them back to normal. Phase 3 specific types of employers. Visits to senior care facilities and hospitals can resume. Those who interact with residents and patients must be diligent regarding hygiene, blah 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 blah. Large venues, movies, theaters, etc., can operate under limited physical distancing protocols. Gyms can remain open if they adhere to standard sanitization protocols. Bars may operate with increased standing room occupancy where applicable. The definition for these guidelines for vulnerable individuals are 1. Elderly individuals, or 2. Individuals with serious underlying health conditions, including high blood pressure, chronic lung disease, diabetes, obesity, asthma, and those whose immune system is compromised, such as by chemotherapy for cancer and other conditions requiring such therapy. Alright, so this is a little sneak preview of what President Trump will be announcing here in about, let me check the White House out, in about 12 minutes. I just wanted to make this video real quick before he goes live and tells you guys about this stuff. So there you go. A little sneak peek at what the president's going to say. Take care.